comic books, almost everyone has super strength, super stamina, super durability, blah blah blah. It's all boring. We are here for those heroes who boost the uniqueness up to 10, wielding powers that are just so unorthodox they are often overlooked. But they are actually awesome. Today on Top 10 Nerd, we're talking about 10 more underrated superpowers that are actually awesome. Coming in at number 10, it's Photographic Reflexes. This superhero power is usually attributed to one character. At least in Marvel Comics, that character would be Tony Masters, otherwise known as Taskmaster. Taskmaster's Photographic Reflexes ability allows this guy to watch another person's physical movements and duplicate them without any practice or training, no matter how complex those movements are. Tony is able to duplicate almost any physical activity after seeing it done by someone else only once. Even using this ability to master complex gymnastics routines and play difficult pieces of music. But it goes beyond mere mimicry. He has often shown the ability to actually predict an opponent's next move before they even make it if he has studied their fighting style enough. Opponents who are skilled at improvisational fighting styles or who have a more random, unpredictable style are less likely to have their moves predicted by Taskmaster, though, of course. Another benefit that comes with his photographic reflexes is that Tony can push his body past its natural limits, meaning his agility and speed can increase itself to match that of other superhuman speed and agility. It also makes him an excellent teacher, so pop that on the resume. Number 9, Dimensional Storage. While this kind of power is more often just used as a trope in television and comic books where characters pull objects from seemingly out of nowhere, it has also been used as an actual legit power, and it's all a result of spatial manipulation and or dimensional travel. We have seen this ability used by all sorts of characters, from the Wizards of Harry Potter with their tents, buildings, or bags, to characters like Ramona Flowers from Scott Pilgrim who pulled a massive hammer out of a tiny little purse. In DC Comics, Green Lanterns store their lantern batteries in a pocket dimension from which they recall it when they need to recharge their rings. From Marvel, the Mutant Abyss houses a portal to an unknown dimension that he can freely pull objects in and out of. The Spider-Man villain Spot is basically composed of holes that go to a pocket dimension. Deadpool has been known to use this trick from time to time, although it's hardly ever explained because it's Deadpool. Then, of course, most characters with cartoon physics do this too. These pocketed dimensions are not limited to any physical location and can be applied pretty much anywhere. Whether it's a portable bag, a pants pocket, a closet, or with a character like the X-Men's Dupe, it's literally inside of him. A hero with this ability can basically store anything, even people, so long as whatever it is fits the entry point. There's no need to worry about the weight of the objects in storage either, as it's floating in an unlimited space or it's on a massive world-sized dimension, eliminating the strain that comes with carrying it. I think this is pretty awesome. Number 8, Cypher. Cypher has what some people believe to be a pretty horrible mutant ability, especially when it comes to combat. Personally, I would kill to be able to subconsciously translate any written or spoken language, human or alien. He can also subconsciously understand body language and intention, as well as decipher codes and computer languages. After he was resurrected, and also so Marvel could make him actually useful, everything that he sees is interpreted into language, basically making him able to read life. I don't even know if that makes sense. Everything I just said is strange enough, but I can wrap my head around it to some degree. Sort of. Then, you tell me that this man can, quote, speak in binary code. In New Mutants Volume 3, number 14, a guy operating a mech comes upon Cypher during a battle, and this mutant speaks to the mech saying, "Hello, you don't have to do this. You know, I can set you free, show you how to think for yourself." And he says it in both English and binary code at somehow the same time. The dude operating the mech understands him since he's speaking English, but for some reason, the mech, which is not artificial intelligence, also understands him, boots the operator out, and begins talking in zeros and ones. I don't even know. Number 7, Darkness Manipulation. Sometimes called umbrakinesis or shadow manipulation, darkness manipulation is the ability to create and manipulate darkness or shadows. It's basically control over the absence of light, which is a weird thing to think about. What's cool is that usually this darkness is so powerful that it cannot be penetrated by light, and sometimes not even by other energies either. Characters with this power are able to give their own shadows life, and others can generate darkness darkness, which in DC comes from a place called the Shadowlands or the Dark Zone, and in Marvel, certain characters like the hero Cloak access it from the Dark Force dimension. DC's Teen Titan Raven, along with Richard Swift, the Shade, Darklight, and Shadowlass are all capable of doing this. So is the Bat God Barbados, who is able to generate and manipulate dark energy and cloak areas in darkness, and even fire dark lightning from his hands. Dark lightning makes no sense, but just roll with it. The Marvel symbiote god Null possessed the ability to create, control, and manipulate a fount of eldritch darkness, which was a manifestation of the primordial void that existed before the universe itself. Quote unquote. That's what he calls the living abyss. With this, he was able to create the symbiotes themselves, including the all-black symbiote, which granted a similar but less powerful version of this power to others like Gore the God Butcher. Jordan Lewis, otherwise known as the mutant Gloom, had the ability to release a nerve-dampening darkness at will, temporarily blinding whoever he chooses. It's just a cool power, man. Number 6. Dazzler. Dazzler, otherwise known as Alison Blair, is a mutant with the ability to transduce sound into light. She is also a very gifted singer and performer, which she uses in tandem with her powers to just blow people's minds at her concerts. But she is more than that. She can take any source of sound other than her own voice, unless it's projected back at her, as light energy, which she stores up and can use in a bunch of really cool ways. Obviously, using the lights she emits, she can blind adversaries, but she can also create therapeutic light to help allies. Her Dazzle Blast, which is either the best name ever or the worst name ever, is a light show so intense that it overwhelms the nervous systems of whoever is watching it and can knock people out. She can also shoot lasers that can cut through solid metal and photon blasts that strike with concussive force. She can create quote-unquote light fog to hide allies. She can create force fields for offensive and defensive purposes, and she can even fly with this power somehow. She's become the Herald of Galactus in a What If comic, and she was actually one of the more impressive versions of Thor from God Doom's Thor Corps, even coming over to the 616 reality at one point. Dazzler is pretty awesome. Number 5. Count Vertigo. Count Werner Vertigo is of royal blood. He is heir to the throne of Vlatava. It's truly the most prestigious of titles, I swear to God. But that is not his superpower. Count Vertigo had a hereditary inner ear defect that affected his balance, which is also not a superpower. But Vertigo had a small electronic device implanted in his right temple that compensated that problem for him. Now, after tinkering with that device, Vertigo learned that he was able to affect other people's balance as well as fixing his own, distorting their perceptions so that they literally could not tell up from down, an effect known as vertigo. Werner used this skill most notably to fight Green Arrow, and that's honestly a pretty great hero to choose when you have this kind of power. He'd also join up with the Suicide Squad and checkmate, using his powers to make people dizzy to his advantage. Honestly, this power is much more effective than one might think, and it has been used by other characters in comicdom, most notably Marvel's, wait for it, Vertigo, who utilizes psionic equilibrium distortion. With this power, she is able to project swirling mental waves of psionic distortion into her environment that affect the nervous systems of other living beings, focusing on the organs of the inner ear, causing extreme vertigo, nausea, disorientation, and have them experience hallucinations. Her distortion waves can render others unconscious and can also interfere with the superhuman powers of others, preventing their use or causing them to function incorrectly. That's an elite power, and I think it would be just fun to do to people who annoy you, because that's what I would do. Number 4. Blink. You know, in the beginning of the X-Men Days of Future Past live action movie when there's that really cool fight scene in the bunker between some mutants and the ultra advanced Sentinels? Well, you know that mutant that was firing out portals and stuff, just like throwing them all over the place? That is Blink, and she is super cool. Clarice Ferguson's power has a few different uses. Obviously, there are bright pink portals, but she can also throw that same energy as a sort of missile that will teleport those, or even parts of those, that she hits. The range of her power is actually quite impressive, as it has a potential range of as far as the moon and back, which is freaking far. With the potential of her abilities and the cool way it's used, and even just how awesome she looks, you'd think she would have done a lot more, but she seems to not really have a whole lot of meaningful appearances, except if you want to see her being as amazing of a character as she should be, you can find her in the Age of Apocalypse, and she is so cool. Number 3. Groot. The Flora Colossi from Marvel Comics are a pretty unique alien species because they are all basically just humanoid trees, and because we only really know of one, Groot. As walking and talking trees, they can do a hell of a lot more than your average human or alien. One of Groot's greatest abilities is that he's been completely destroyed on 3 separate occasions in the comics and has been able to completely grow back from nothing but a twig. You think being made of wood, Groot is incredibly susceptible to fire, but nope! The wood-like organic material that makes up his body is not only resistant to fire, but is thick enough that it's resistant to almost all weapons too, giving him pretty impenetrable natural armor. But then, because Groot has control over his own vine-like body and can grow and shape himself for a whole variety of things. He can grow to become even larger than he already is, he can elongate his limbs to reach things or act as a bridge or a ladder, he can turn his limbs into weapons, even wooden blades that are somehow actually sharp, but he also somehow has super strength. But then on top of all of that, Groot also has the ability to control plants, heal others, and he's highly intelligent and has a tremendous grasp of quasi-dimensional superpositional engineering. So yeah, it would be really cool to be Groot. Number 2, Husk. Paige Guthrie is part of a family that has a lineage of mutant abilities. Sam Guthrie was Cannonball, Joshua Guthrie is Icarus, Melody Guthrie is Arrow, and Jebediah Guthrie, I don't remember his superhero name, but he has superpowers. Paige's power is a wee bit unorthodox though. She has the ability to shed her skin, and by concentrating on specific chemical or elemental formulas, she can cause the layer of skin underneath to be a different element or shape or state. She can become any solid that she has studied and can imitate metal, diamonds, granite, wood, rubber, and even glass. And somehow, I don't know how this works, she's been shown to turn into a sharp-toothed lizard one time. I don't know. She doesn't have perfect control over her abilities at this point in time, but when she transforms, she obviously gains different abilities depending what she turns into. She has granted herself super strength and durability, flame generation, and many other things. Her shedding lets her get rid of dirt or sweat and even minor injuries, which is both cool and kind of a little freaky. She has all kinds of potential if she is given the time to properly train her powers. And finally, in at number 1, it's Pheromonal Persuasion. Zebediah Killgrave, the Purple Man from Marvel Comics, has the ability to secrete pheromones that, once inhaled by another person, allows him to control them using literal verbal commands, making them completely obedient to him. This power essentially lets him use words to completely override the willpower of others. Now, while Killgrave used this power to commit quote normal crimes like robbing banks, also more predominantly would use his ability to manipulate those of the opposite gender to fulfill his own desires, which is both incredibly despicable but sadly probably pretty realistic. Luckily though, this is not a power that is unique to Killgrave. Other characters like DC's Poison Ivy, Crimson Fox, and Resurrection Man, or Marvel's Spider-Woman, Daken, and the other members of Purple Man's family all use variations of this power for all kinds of things. Most characters using the power use it for villainy because, let's be honest, controlling others is pretty evil. A lot of the time though, it's used for romantic purposes, but it can be used to mark territory, to make people not want to enter certain spaces, as a way of leaving a trail for somebody to follow, to disorient others or throw others off one's trail, and to increase one's level of stealth. It's such an incredibly subtle ability and versatile ability which makes it fly under the radar, but it's allowed some characters to reach super levels of power without much effort at all. But that's all I got. Thank you guys so much for watching here on Top 10 Nerd. I'll catch you nerds on the flippy flop. Peace out!